Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the final thematic session for Tech Innovation 2021, which will discuss the trends, opportunities, and clinical support for evidence-based traditional herbal medicine treatment in this sector. Should you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A feature on your screen. We will answer your questions during the panel discussion. Right now, we'd like to invite Jacob Cheong from Yu Yen Sang, who will share how traditional Chinese medicine can be used to better understand consumer behavior change. Jacob?
Thanks, Elwin. I feel honored to be invited by IPI for today's presentation. A quick intro about myself. I'm Jacob Cheong from Unaffordable International, in charge of group product development and product lifecycle management. And I'm in functional food and nutritional supplement industry for 17 years. Prior joining to the Unaffordable, I was working with product brands like Red Moss, Dutch Lady, and brand Essence of Chicken under Suntory Cerebros. In this presentation, I would like to share the diverse type of initiative from Yansan, which are driven by our company belief that consumer need and behavioral change is at the heart of what we do, and further supported by evidence-based research. So a quick intro about my company, Yansan. We have 142 years of heritage. The business can be divided into 4 segments. On manufacturing, we have 4 GMP certified manufacturing facilities, 1 factory in Hong Kong and 3 factories in Malaysia. And our product distributed in 3 different channels, namely retail, wholesale, e-commerce. We have 181 retail outlets in Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Macau, and China. And our product also sold in this core market in wholesale to specialty retailers. And our global online store delivered to over 20 countries worldwide. Besides product, we also have clinic services in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. We have 1 GP clinic called as One Wellness Medical Center, located at Robinson Road, Singapore, provided integrated TCM services with Western GP for the best patient outcome. And we also export and distributed to countries like US, Canada, etc. And also we have 1 food and beverage outlet in Malaysia. So Yuan-san believe that traditional wisdom, modern science, and technology can work together to create new and more effective Chinese proprietary medicine. This is why we constantly collaborate with institutes and universities in the area of research and new product development along the way. And in this presentation, I will share with you our belief that consumer needs and behavioral change is at the heart of what we do, and we will explain in greater details on the following slide. So if a quick look at the world's most recognized brands prove that concept that the most successful companies are also often the most relevant and connected with customers, for instance, Nike and Apple. They remain relevant and continually evolve by watching the market and anticipating what their consumer will want tomorrow. Similarly, Yuan-san also value what our consumer want, or more important, we believe will TCM and keep up with current product expectation, and whether consumer feel truly connected to what we are doing. We do our best to understand consumer behavior to keep abreast with the time. On the following slide, I will present to you some insight that we observe from market trend and consumer study that we have conducted in different era, and that relevant evidence-based research on product. Project Brill, one of our consumer study conducted in 2013, has discovered consumer behavior change from curative mindset to a preventive approach. Being a healthy today has moved beyond simply avoiding illness to improving the quality of one's health. Psychological strength and overall life in proactive and positive way is about living well. The subsequent Nielsen study in 2018 provide more insight to us pertaining to the overall wellness need that our consumer looking forward to improve, and illustrated the top trigger point of consuming proprietary Chinese medicine. We also observe consumer demand for personalization, health and wellness solution. This is consistently demonstrated on research between year 2013 and 2021. From Euromonitor, we understand that consumers are paying more attention to safe and natural. They are willing to spend on herbal supplement, and it will be advantage if the product claims are backed by scientific evidence to support quality, safety, and efficacy, and also mitigate risk of herb drug interactions. And from this slide, it shows that market are increased demand for plant-based solutions. In a nutshell, we can summarize that key consumer touchpoint as following. On the later part, I will show you how evidence-based research can value add and fulfill to the consumer needs. So I would like to give you a quick snapshot about Behaviour flagship product on women category before moving into the evidence-based research. So our flagship product comes, Buffon Pill is one of our iconic products, which is well known for women's health, primarily on relief menstrual pain and invigorate blood and boosting qi. And Behaviour has modified the classic Buffon Pill formula to increase product efficacy. Besides, we also have Menoids, which are derived from Buffon Pill formula and catered towards elderly women going through menopause. We also have plant-based version of Buffon Pill catered towards who do not wish to consume animal part. So market insights show that consumer behavior moving to be more proactive. Scientific studies actually provide more confidence and enable them to visualize how TCM could improve their health and fulfill their overall wellness. Consumers could understand the mechanism of Buffon Pill, regulate menstruations and elevating menstrual pain. From pharmacological study, Buffon Pill does not alter sex hormone-related receptor on mRNA levels. Hence, a modulatory effect rather than a direct estrogenic effect gives Buffon Pill an edge over other hormone replacement therapy, as it does not cause unwanted estrogenic side effect. And menstrual pain elevating via two mechanisms. The first one is an analgesic effect, and the second one will be uterine muscle relaxation. And from research, we have also discovered Buffon Pill offers some other health benefits beyond women wellness, such as cardioprotection effect, positive impact on immune system by increasing white blood cell, and also assist with improvement of digestive function. Findings from Buffon Pill research confirmed the beneficial effect and elucidated some possible mechanisms which lead to the proposal of this new formula for elevating post-menopause symptoms. This resulted in a patented product called Menoids, and this is an expanded category from a common women group to a more specific age group who has special need on menopause symptom relief. This is to fulfill consumer need to have more personalized health and wellness solution. And the clinical evidence proved that Menoids could quick relief of hot flushes, significant reduce of vasomotor symptoms, day and night sweat, and exert effect on psychosocial, physical, and sexual well-being of menopause women. From this market insight data, you can see that menopause market is keep expanding. Due to increase on the need of vegan-based user, vegetarian and vegan-based user, we have developed vegetarian Buffon formula to expand existing range and acquire new consumer whose need millennial. And Buffon BF4, which is a plant-based version, show very prominent effect to a level like the pain relieving effect of indoor medicine, even at the lowest dose. And okay, this also very interesting product. Red yeast rice produce a chemical called monocholine K, which inhibits the body production of cholesterol. It has been developed as a popular functional supplement for reducing cholesterol. Given that a growing number of consumers today are resorting to self-medication with herbal remedy for their medical condition or to maintain wellness while concurrently seeking prescription Western medication, there is a high chance of encountering drug interactions. So this product actually has a patent filed over 10 different countries, include US, China, Canada, Japan, etc., on the proprietary processing method, removing fraction X water-soluble rigid-dry compound, which is known to interact with many prescription drugs. We have also conducted studies to scientifically tested the patented compound and demonstrated a reduced risk of potential side effects from prescription drug taken concurrently. Last but not least, I would like to use the quote from famous TCM master, Xu Jingshi. The modern research method actually unlock new potential of TCM and provide new attraction to consumer of this ancient art with 1,000 years of history, but making relevancy with today's modern lifestyle. And this is my closure. I would like to show you this my favorite brand logo. This carry a lot of meaning to us because we would like actually the way we do is we want to strengthen our TCM root using innovation, science, and technology, so that this long heritage TCM product can spread our branches to positively impact wellness across generations. So this is the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacob, for that very interesting presentation. Next, Professor Liu Aiping from Hong Kong Baptist University will elaborate on latest standardization for this field of medicine. Aiping?
Hello, good afternoon from Hong Kong. Yeah, I try to introduce myself, with two sentences actually. The first one, my major, research interest is not in the standardization, but I'm in the more like integrative medicine in autoimmune disease and cancer. And the second is that, I have been, very actively involved that the standardization of Chinese traditional Chinese medicine. So that's why I'm happy to share with you how the current situation of the standardization of Chinese medicine. For the standard, actually, it's not only the strong evidence. Strong evidence, of course, is most important, but it's not enough. So they need to go the process I call the harmonization way. So that means you need to harmonize, in different partners or different stakeholders. Let's say I try to introduce three cases. The first one is in National Organization for Standardization, ISO. They have a technical committee 249. The title is Traditional Chinese Medicine. In that technical committee, actually established 11 years ago, I joined that from that time, and the secretariat actually in China, in Shanghai. The scope actually for ISO TC technical committee is more like a business related. I call it business related standard development. So that scope is try to standardize those medical systems derived from Asian Chinese medicine, which shall be able to share one common set of standards. So that's more like the product quality and safety, of course, including service standards, but not into the clinical practice or application of those products. Because for the clinical practice, it's more like in a legal way or professional way in different nations or countries. Now we have 5 working groups in different areas, and also joint working group. One is for the terminology. Joint working group means that one ISO technical committee and joined with another technical committee. So the first 5 groups is different areas, and also we have 2 chair advisory group for governance and also for working group management. The published ISO standards in traditional Chinese medicine, we can see here actually each year is about 10 or anyway 2 digits sometimes. So most standards initiated or in charge actually by China research group teams. Seems it's good for China, but at the same time, actually, I encourage more experts from out of China, research team or standard team to develop a traditional Chinese medicine standard in the ISO platform. So those standard ongoing way in different countries. You can see here the Japan, Korea, China. They're most a key role. I would say that in that ISO standard in traditional Chinese medicine platform. So the first case. The second case is from WHO ICD 11. We know that the ICD 10 have been used already for many years. And this ICT, International Classification of Disease, is for international standard for reporting disease and health condition. It's the most important standard for the health information or health informatics. They have, more than 17,000 categories and 80,000 concepts, many terminology and so many 1.6 million clinical terms interpreted. So that's ICD 10 is most important for health informatics. So that means the exchange or information sharing in whole world actually regarding the health is based on that ICD. Currently we use ICD 10. And in the ICD 11, that's a new version of ICD, will be implemented actually next year. So in that ICD 11, I think the key point that they include two chapters about traditional medicine. One is traditional medicine condition they're called disorders. Another one is traditional medicine patterns. So anyway, that that's the first time I would say that the traditional medicine, those informatics or terminology actually included in the worldwide, or I would say the worldwide application for the health informatics. So the disorders, I won't go to detail about how the disorders defined in the ICD 11 and how the pattern in traditional medicine defined in that. The case 3, I would say that the traditional Chinese medicine clinical practice guidelines in China, for the medical practice or even clinical practice, actually, the CVG is most important to guide all practitioners. They are working in efficient way, both including effective, safety, and of course, economic. So in mainland China, actually more than 1,700 that standards related to the traditional Chinese medicine developed already. So that's huge, clinical practice guideline. I would say that the central pool in mainland China, and we can see they include all the guidelines in different department, different disorders, different diseases already. And in the for the guidelines, clinical practice guidelines, actually we have several ways to assessment how the quality it is, and also how to develop those clinical practice guidelines, either in the traditional Chinese medicine or the traditional Chinese medicine combined Western medicine. We have been developed those methodology already, published in the rated journals, including how the strong evidence and how the expert consensus can reach in the way to develop the clinical practice guidelines. Here is I would say the major survey for how the clinical practice guidelines in mainland China, how they effectively used or how implemented in the 42 hospitals in whole mainland China. So that's the outcome for that. The very interesting is that even it's complete out of my thought actually. Original thought I would say that not so many junior or senior practitioners that use the clinical practice guideline. Fortunately, actually more than 70% of practitioners, we in the survey actually express that they use the clinical practice guidelines, and also we further analyze those, how the effectiveness and how the safety, how the economic impact on that clinical practice guidelines. And it seems to me it's very good for the for whole traditional Chinese medicine areas in mainland China. So I would say that it's one way to to develop those guidelines, and also in Hong Kong we called relocalization. That means we try to develop the practice guidelines in Hong Kong. Of course, you need to in Hong Kong with the harmonization way and get used to those the therapeutic or diagnostic way in Hong Kong traditional Chinese medicine clinical practitioners. So that's the methodology for that. I think the major part, I would say that the standard actually is big topic. I can share for many hours. Here I try to to show there 3 cases to share with you and how the standards is important, how to develop those standards. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aiping. Next, we have Professor Bian Zhao Xiang, who will present the types of clinical-based research that Hong Kong Baptist University conducts. Zhao Xiang.
Chair, it's my great honor to be invited to present some clinical research in our coming Hong Kong Chinese Medicine Hospital. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner and also basic and translational researchers. I introduce a little bit about the clinical research, but back to the clinical practice first. We know that the Chinese medicine has more than 2,000 years, especially in East Asia. The treatment based on the syndrome differentiation is the basic of the Chinese medicines, and the feedback system, which is quite important steps to secure the clinical efficacy in the practice. We're all talking about individualization is the basis of clinical management system in Chinese medicines. So we do the practice for more than 2,000 years, but why we do the clinical researches? But back to the ancient times, we still have some of the clinical studies, like 神农赏百草，一日与70度. They try different types of the herbs, and sometimes they have some adverse effects. And also they have Chinese medicine contribute to the first control study in the world, which has happened in the year 1116, that times to compare with 2 guys, one guy eating the dangsen, which is a type of ginseng, and another guy did not take it, to compare which one can go long times. This is the first control study in the world. But for the first randomized control trial in the world history, which is not very long history, just only around less than 1 century. The first one is coming in 19th century in 45, and the first published one is a little bit later. And in Chinese medicine area, the first published randomized control trial related with Chinese medicine is in 1982, which is from the master Professor Chen Keji. Nowadays, the number of the clinical researches in terms of the randomized control trial, the number increased dramatically in the last 2 decades, although the quality still have the room to increase. But we are talking about the publication for those of the clinical trials. They have a big gap. Also very importantly, a big bridge for the publication, because only the research's results could be alert through the publication. Otherwise, the other groups cannot understand what's happening about the clinical trial. And also the publication of those trials still be the basis for the secondary analysis. So it's very important evidence source for currently nowadays we are talking about the evidence-based practice. So for that one, we are in a traditional Chinese medicine clinical trial report, we list some of the key elements which should be reported in the final manuscript. The first one is including those of the rationale of those Chinese medicine for the clinical studies. We may have many reasons to conduct a clinical research, but the rationale should be very clearly stated. But secondly, we need to have some of the certain type of the TCM intervention selected in the trial. A third one, we need to list the diagnosis of TCM conditions, whether it's combined with the Western medicine disease or combine the syndrome with the Western medicine conditions. That's a very important part. The fourth one is the details about the intervention and its controls. Common intervention in the Chinese medicine trials, including those of herbal formula, acupuncture, moist brushing, tuna, and other steps. And not most important one is the outcome assessment, which based on the TCM concept or based on the disease concept. And of course, that's very important part for the side effect of the TCM interventions. This is the major elements in the TCM trials. For the rationale, we need to have some of the list about whether we focus on efficacy, safety, or cost effective, or other factors. For the diagnosis, we have the different types of diagnosis criteria. For the therapeutic principles, definitely we need to have very clear one too about the principle definition, and the intervention, just we're talking about that one. And built for that part, we set a good publication network based on the reporting rationale for different types of Chinese medicine, including the case report, the protocols, for the recommendation for clinical registration, for the clinical standards for different types. And also, we have some of standards for the systematic review and meta-analysis. Of course, currently we are working on a multiple standard trial reporting guidelines. This is not just for the Chinese medicine, but for all the other Western medicines too. The internationally, Chinese medicine research currently get a higher recognition more and more. You can find that some of the good research is about published in the NF's internal medicines, some other stuffs. You can find many of the good publications. So it means that Chinese medicine research attracts lots of attentions. And also the research is very important from the classic wisdom to be part of the clinical practice guidelines. That's very important. Like we give two examples, like the artemisinin for the malaria and another one for the acute leukemia. That's very important. Otherwise, even if we don't have the clinical research, it's impossible to be part of the Western medicine clinical practice guidelines. And we are talking about a little bit of we are coming to have a Chinese medicine hospital in Hong Kong, which is a dream of HKBU and Hong Kong communities. We have around 400 beds, and also we have outpatient service and community outreach. That part is for the first one as education and training center for 3 universities of local in Hong Kong. And further, we need to have the strength of the multiple discipline collaborations to promote the research, not just in Hong Kong. We hope go through the Great Bay Area and internationally, and also stick to strengthen the collaboration between the government, industry, academia, and the research institute. Majorly focus, we're going to talking about the first one. We know that the aging is a big problem. And also we know that encouraging is a technology advancement. So we want to combine those elements, which is very important part for the future care. In that part, we want to have a paradigm shift from those of those of the integration of Chinese medicine with the AI approaches to developing different types of the wearables device for medical researchers, which is a very important part, and I hope we can do the future care part. And thus we can implement the personalized, precise medicine and the digitalization about healthy care. If we success that part, not just for the Chinese medicine, we also apply for that other parts of the healthcare systems. So including those of smart systems, including those of the close collaborations, and also for those intelligent wearable device. That's one of the major parts we want to develop in the Chinese medicine hospital. Further, we have the 20 clinical trial beds in that hospital, which is the fourth hospital with the clinical research beds. We want to, based on that, want to emphasize the clinical practice guidelines just mentioned by the Professor Liu. And also we do the Chinese medicine pharmaceutical development from the traditional market to the global drug market. And also we hope to have promote the internationalization through classic, clinical, and translational studies. That's a major concept we want to share with all of you about the Chinese medicine hospital. Based on current researches, we want to do more to elaborate the Chinese medicine, individualize the medicine, and combine with the new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Zhao Xiang. Finally, we have Dr. Edmund Tien from Temasek Polytechnic, who will provide Singapore's perspective on complementary health products. Edmund?
Thank you, Alvin, for a kind introduction. And hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today with you and share insights about the evidence-based evidence-based traditional herbal medicine we all are excited about. My name is Edmund Tien. I'm currently heading the COI for complementary health products. I'm a chemist by training. So indeed, I have learned a lot from the other experts on the panel. So today, I have the privilege of sharing with you the advances in complementary health products from a Singapore perspective. So as we get started, I would like to first clarify that in my presentation, I will use this term of complementary health products, or CHP for short, throughout. CHP includes traditional herbal medicines, health supplements or dietary supplements, and functional ingredients and foods. And CHP is also a term used by our local regulators for Chinese proprietary medicine and traditional medicine and health supplements. So the CHP industry is rapidly growing in many regions around the world, with a market size of more than $400 billion and a growth rate is estimated at a CAGR of more than 10%, according to a market study done a few years back. Closer to home, we also observe a significant growth and employment creation opportunities in the local CHP industry. The current COVID-19 pandemic has intensified consumers' search for healthy products and functional foods. The fact is that not only many consumer product giants and pharma MNCs are moving into the CHP space through mergers and acquisitions, we have also seen many ambitious startups are now in this sector. However, there are many challenges faced by the CHP industry. According to a WHO global survey, the lack of research data and modern scientific evidence is a major regulatory hurdle for the traditional medicine industry. CHP industry consists of mainly SMEs. In general, SMEs are limited in their resources in R&D and innovation. There are other hurdles such as high land costs in Singapore, lack of shared scientific facilities, lack of technical expertise in the field of CHP, lack of workforce development and public education. And in terms of the regulatory framework, locally, insufficient emphasis on the traditional medicine and health supplement regulations, CGMP standards, and the enforcement of advertising and good sales practices. So in order to better engage and support the local CHP industry, the Center of Innovation for Complementary Health Products was launched in 2016 as a joint initiative between Enterprise Singapore and Temasek Polytechnic. For your information, Enterprise Singapore is one of our government industry lead agencies, and Temasek Polytechnic is one of the institutes of higher learning under the Ministry of Education. So as a one-stop national center, COI-CHP promotes and advances evidence-based approaches for CHP products through innovation and technical consultancy, workforce development, and sharing of scientific facilities. So in the next few slides, I'd like to share with you some of the core capabilities and services available at the COI. We will be able to partner with the industry players in developing new methods, be it chemical or biological assays, for them to validate and authenticate and standardize their CHP products with the aim to add value to their products and services, because we all know that CHP product quality is one of the major concerns of consumers. So the capability available here, like authentication of active components, quantification of biomarkers, antioxidant testings, residue pesticides and banned substance detection, stability studies for product shelf life. Some of the examples of such industry projects are shown here. Right. So this product is a 100% herbal formulation for liver function. So because it's quite a complex herbal formulation, so previously there was no existing so-called endorsed method for characterize the herbal formulation and a herbal mixture and for the quality assurance. So we developed the relatively simple HPLC fingerprinting method for the quality assurance of this herbal preparation. So it's relatively fast and relatively cheap. So another example is through this technology is a LC-MS QTOP platform, and with the analytic to distinguish and authenticate American ginseng from wild ginseng and also Canadian ginseng. Another example is through the in-house pesticide database. We applied this database to evaluate the so-called organic and non-organic food products. Then we'll be able to see the difference by evaluating the trace level multi-pesticide residues. So another big category of the so-called capability is focusing on the demonstration of the effectiveness of these CHP products. We conduct preclinical, in vitro, and in vivo studies focusing on the functionality, for instance, the immunomodulatory effects, antihypertensive effects through these various cell line models. And we also look into the toxicology and safety aspects of the products. Various animal models are established in-house for different kind of diseases. And we also carry out the in vivo PK and PD studies. For just now, both Prof Lee and Prof Bien mentioned about the human trial is a very important aspect to produce the direct scientific evidence to demonstrate the effectiveness of product. Right? So we do carry out human trials, but we partner with public hospitals to carry out this kind of human trials. Other capabilities include CGMP consultancy and science-backed proprietary product development and product formulation and reformulation, and studies on consumer insights. A few more industry projects as an example. So this is a platform established in-house through the so-called public funded research grants. And we developed this LC-MS-Q-TOP platform coupled with the antioxidant assays to identify antioxidant ingredients in the complex food or supplement matrices. In the meantime, a simultaneous evaluation of the activity of the individual antioxidant clusters will be made possible. And because that method is relatively complex and expensive, so we do have a simplified version, and this is just based on the same logic, and it's a simple paper test. We carry out a quick screening. We'll be able to identify the key clusters of the natural antioxidants in a relatively complex supplement matrix. So last but not least, I'm going to share how we carry out the science-backed new product development. So this one is a proprietary herbal formulation development through the 3D screen model and in vitro co-culture system to optimize the effectiveness. So at the end of the day, we hope to partner with the industry to commercialize the developed IP. So in a nutshell, this is how the COI-CHP may collaborate with the CHP industry to support SMEs in their innovation journey and enable them to stay competitive in a dynamic and growing industry. So on this final slide, I would like to thank you for your time and attention. I personally feel there's plenty of opportunities for all of us in this place. So if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out to me at this email address. So now I would like to hand it over to Alvin for the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edmund. As we will be moving on to the panel discussion segment, please submit your questions in the Q&A feature on your screen. Joanne Yin, Senior Physician and Manager, NTU Chinese Medicine Clinic, School of Biological Sciences at Nanyang Technological University, will be the moderator for this panel discussion. We will invite our 4 speakers back on screen as well. Over to you, Yan Yin.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we'd like to thank all the speakers first for sharing and giving us so much insights into how they incorporate technology with traditional medicine or Chinese medicine itself. So for a start, we have been receiving a lot of questions. So maybe I'll just pick up some of the questions. And so over to Jacob, one of the questions to you is, do you observe if consumers are increasingly interested in the evidence or still rely on the advice from TCM doctors? So if so, which group of consumers are more interested in these evidences?
Hi, Yang Ying. Thanks for the questions. I think it depends on there are actually 2 types of consumer. One is reach to the clinic services looking for more customized services to their specific symptoms. Then for the product wise, right? I mean the product that you can reach from the retail shop. That one more towards consumer who wish to have the prevention. This is my observation, because like the insight that I share, right? Consumer has moved from a curative mindset to a preventive approach. So nowadays, a lot of the consumer, they actually have the mindset that they try to in a Chinese term we call it 治胃病, to get something to supplement to enhance their body before they get ill. So I think majority the consumer has this mindset cultivated. But for those that have some symptoms, they want to seek for a special treatment, they will still go for clinic services. So these are the two different group of the consumer.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. One more question. How does Yu Yan-Seng navigate the difficult regulatory classifications in Singapore around the traditional Chinese medicine that can reduce menopause and other chronic diseases?
Can you repeat again?
Okay, how does Yu Yan-Seng navigate the different regulatory classifications of Chinese medicines in Singapore that can reduce menopause and other chronic diseases?
I think for this menopause, right, it's still under the classification of the CPM product, and the claims actually we are referred back to some of the monograph. Whereas the other chronic disease is really case by case basis, need to refer on the how specific the claims, because this is a very difficult to answer question. You need to look at the claim level on what are the actions, the mechanism that the product claims. If this has the backup from a monograph or has a backup from some scientific evidence, I think this can be justified with the authority. Everything I mean, like Dr. Tian mentioned, for the authority, they actually look on the evidence versus the claims.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Let's move on. We have a question to Prof. Lee. Prof. Lee, will standardization drive up cost and make TCM more unaffordable?
Definitely not. You know, standardization is kind of a way I would say, try to simplify those procedures and also simplify the therapeutic procedures and diagnostic procedures. So I would say that much more cost effective.
Okay, one more question for Prof. Can you share with us the top 3 challenges in taking research in the TCM sector into the markets of Europe and US?
I would say clinical trial. Clinical trial. I think if we can go through the strong evidence, that means obtain the very positive outcome in the clinical trial. That's everything I would say.
Okay, just one more question. Are you able to cite case studies or successful outcome that have benefits from the acceleration or adoption of standardization in the clinical research and practice of traditional herbal medicine?
Of course, the clinical practice guidelines. Actually, I showed that survey in whole mainland China, and surprised that is more than 70% of practitioners actually follow the clinical practice guideline, in the real clinical practice. So I think that's more important for those, practitioners.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Over to Prof. Bien. One of the questions was, how can companies work with Chinese medicine hospital to evaluate plant-based or herbal medicine for treatment of certain diseases?
Okay, the first point says really welcome all the collaborations. The secondly, when the planning hospital will open around 2025. That time we'll have clinical trial beds, and we can go through the application and to work with the local institutes working together to implement the researches. Definitely, before that we conduct the clinical trials, we need to have more of those preclinical data including those of the CMCs, pharmacology, toxicologists, in terms of that's a new drug applications. Or if there's a classic formulation, we need to have some preliminary data to work for that one. In Hong Kong, if we conduct the clinical trials in the hospital or in the institute setting, we need to apply the clinical trial certification from Department of Health. And I want to emphasize one point, that all the collaborations are very welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Ian. One more question. Can you comment on the global use of TCM in healthcare, whether there have been efforts made to promote the global reach of TCM?
The global use depends on the global needs. In the current medical system, we still have lots of the unmet medical needs. Those medical needs, probably the Chinese medicine can provide very good examples to very good solutions for them. Just like the Jörg present a very good example for hot flash for the menopause. That part of those conditions, Chinese medicine have a very good resolutions for them. So I think that for targeting those of unmet medical needs, if we can provide very good examples based on the scientific approaches, including those of quality control, including those of the clinical trial evidence, definitely those of products can go further to help all those of the customers, all those of the patients.
So, Prof. Bien, how can WHO's implementation of TCM in the ICD-11 promote the adoption of TCM in healthcare systems?
I think one sort of the ICD-11, the important is draw attention that besides the Western medicine, we still have alternative medicine such as Chinese medicine, which is a very big category. And based on the statistic, you can find that those of the alternative medicine has been implemented, it has been used worldwide. WHO has a report that around 120 countries and regions use Chinese medicines. I think that ICD-11 is a very good example to show the importance of the traditional Chinese medicine. We hope that which is one step for promoting Chinese medicine to the world, go through the evidence-based approaches to promote Chinese medicine to all different types of regions and countries.
Thank you, Prof. Bien. So now let's move over to Dr. Edmund Tien. Dr. Edmund, TCM treatment has always been personalized. What are the synergies you might find with current dietary trends in relation to nutrigenetics or personalized nutrition?
Yes, this is one of the industry trends or the trends currently ongoing in the scientific community. So we do have industry players now moving into this space. They incorporate so-called the advanced technologies. For instance, even the 3D printing technology is introduced in this space to produce the so-called the personalized nutraceuticals for a certain subgroup of the so-called the consumers or even patients. Yes, definitely moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So the personalized medicine now is the personalized nutrition and nutraceuticals, also called CHP products, is one of the industry trends. Then the players probably need to pay a bit attention to that.
One more question to Dr. Edmund Tien. Owing to your quick slide, one of the participants cannot identify which method of antioxidant testing MC that you are currently recommending to use. To what precise relative index you are comparing with, or any referencing medium as basic of readable index?
Just now, what I show is the so-called the assays we develop in-house. That is a new so-called advanced method. So if there are industry players they are interested offline, you can contact the center, contact me, then we can share the more scientific details with you. And in terms of antioxidant testing, there are a lot of so-called the assays developed, depends on the business objective. For instance, the most straightforward is the so-called the total antioxidant capacity. You have a simple these assays. Then just now what I show is because our objectives is not only to understand the total antioxidant capacity, but we still want to look into in a relatively complex matches. For instance, functional food. For instance, the supplement usually is a formulation of many different ingredients. Then in this complex matches, what is the particular class of a natural substance that contribute to the most of this so-called antioxidative damaging effect? And to a certain extent, we can even quantify that kind of antioxidant activity. And there is a relatively complex in vitro new technical platform we established for the antioxidant evaluation. There are many others, even the in vitro one, the animal models to evaluate the so-called super oxidative activities. So really depends on the needs, whether to this will be part of your preclinical studies to produce certain evidence to support the further human trials. All this we need to discuss in more details.
Thank you, Dr. Tian. One more question. Can you share on the potential of creating synergies between non-invasive monitoring wearable technologies and herbal medicine? Can this help to motivate end users' participation in wearable-based monitoring?
The questions to me?
Yeah.
Okay, certainly. The so-called wearable medical devices now again is one of the hot areas in the industry. In terms of nutrition, Singapore, we have started the work on diabetes quite a number of years back, right? So for diabetes patients, it's very important to monitor their blood sugar levels. Then after that, the kind of supplement or medicine, the medicines and exercise, all these holistic treatment will depend on this blood sugar monitoring. So now in the market, there are a number of these quite established devices available. Non-invasive, right? No need to even plug your fingers to get the blood, right? So non-invasive wearable type of, and even can monitor the real-time blood sugar content. So this is really a tremendous improvement in terms of the technology advancement. So I believe that with all the stakeholders now, with this cross-disciplinary scientific advancements, together we'll be able to further our efforts in modernization of this so-called traditional medicine practice and come up with better products and services for consumers.
Thank you, Dr. Tian. I do have one more question for Jacob. It is impressive how much effort Yurensheng is putting into the scientific evidence behind your products. May we understand more on the network of clinical research partners that you work with?
Hi, Yang Ying. I have on my slide, on the second slide, on the third slide, actually have show some of our partners cooperate on the research, such as like Chinese University Hong Kong and Paris University, and also we have cooperate with some of the university in Malaysia as well, and of course like the Red East Rice, that one is a cooperation with Nanyang Poly. Hope I answer your questions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. This is open to all the speakers. Are you able to share what each of you think need to be done or changed for TCM to become not only secondary choice over Western medicine or Western treatment. Maybe I direct to Prof. Lee first.
Yeah, I think two important things that is practitioner's reputation is experience based for can attract more, consumers, less the patient. And another one definitely is more like, I would say the marketing combine the clinical evidence. So I think two ways to, to improve the, what they call CHP product, actually either practitioner experience based, to attract more patients to come, or you get very nice marketing way with your, evidence based.
Okay. How about Prof. Bien? What do you think?
Very good points about for this question. In fact, this is the main pain point for the traditional medicines. For me, I think that I agree with Professor Liu. For me, that we know the efficacy is be there, but most of the times, some patients did not understand or did not know that. So from this point of view, I think that evidence-based scientific research based on the promotion to change the mindset of the public, which is very critical for application of the classic wisdom in the modern societies. The promotion based on scientific evidence in terms of clinical research evidence, in terms of quality control evidence, I think that will be changing the mind of the public. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Bien. How about Jacob? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the consumer become more demanding. They want to understand what are the mechanisms on the things that they consume, how is the impact on our body. And most of the Chinese medicine, the language is quite, like consumer may not fully understand what is the mechanism. So this evidence-based research can fulfill this need. And also from a safety wise, right, they can give more assurance. Yeah, to build the confidence and trust.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. How about Dr. Tian? What do you think?
I fully agree with the opinions of the experts on the panel. I think that's exactly the theme of today this subsection, and we should. All the stakeholders in this ecosystem, we should focus more on evidence-based. We should focus more on innovation, and we should focus on the standardization. So we need to standardize our so-called the TM, the traditional medicine practices, services, and the product, how to evaluate the product, how to standardize the so-called evidence. So this is my point. So together, I think all the stakeholders, we need to be more open, including our consumers. We need to be more open, putting our effort to modernize this industry and product and services.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tian. I do have just one last question to all again. There's an increase in mental health awareness worldwide, especially exacerbated by COVID-19. Are there TCM solutions available for mental wellness? Maybe to Prof. Lee first.
I have no experience, actually. I would say that of helpful in some way, but I cannot say it kind of a therapeutics.
Thank you, Prof. Lee. How about Prof. Bien?
We have two trials. One collaborate with the hospital authority, with the clinics, and also another one collaboration with our physics department. We found that Chinese medicine definitely can help those of the post-COVID-19 patients.
So how about for Jacob? You're not a TCM practitioner, but is Yurensheng looking into mental wellness?
Actually, I'm the student of TCM. Oh, yeah. I haven't in the midst of getting my TCM.
Okay.
I'm on my 5th year of TCM study. So if you ask me about your questions on the mental wellness, right? I believe TCM work well on mental wellness, especially a lot of the herbal on Ningsen, it will help to have the calming effect. But this need to have more evidence to build up. Yeah. So I think need to have because the evidence-based clinical trial is the way to unlock. Well, a lot of these traditional formulation, they give a very brief like 凝神, 冰治, but we need to have a more protocol to look into this formulation and try to unlock into a more specific benefit to address to this the mental wellness, because the mental wellness that you put could be very broad on which area of mental wellness. So we need to set it clear and get the data as a supporting.
Thank you, Jacob. How about Dr. Tien? Do you have any inputs on this?
Indeed, at the COI, we do receive recent industry inquiries on how to develop a novel CHP product to support the mental wellness. So my view is in TCM literature, right, and based on the TCM physicians' experience, more than 1,000 years experience, definitely there are many these ingredient herbs. They are very powerful in supporting mental health, and they are quite a number of these formulated formulas. So we can look into how to redevelop or further develop into it. But the challenge is, as shared by the experts just now, right, is now how to produce the modern scientific evidence and then communicate this evidence with the stakeholders, for instance, the mainstream healthcare professionals and the regulators, because in different regions, like FDA, like our own regulator, ASEAN regulators, their views may be different. So this is the challenging part, how to communicate and standardize the views, and then later on come out a so-called evidence product and good product for consumers. So that is the key point, and that is the so-called the target all the stakeholders, be in the scientific community, the industry, and then even the regulators. We really need to work closely and work towards that common goal.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tien. As a physician myself, I agree with all your answers. There definitely are TCM solutions available for mental wellness, since mental wellness doesn't exist now. It has existed since in ancient years. So there are many solutions. It's just how we can use technology as well as evidence-based research to actually show to the public that, you know, Chinese medicine actually does help with mental wellness. So I think I will end off the Q&A session now, and I'll hand it over to the host.
Thank you very much, panelists, for that wonderful engagement. We have now come to the end of the 3-day live streaming for Tech Innovation 2021. I hope everyone has enjoyed the exciting and inspirational sessions. Here are some administrative notes. Please click on the info button on your screen to submit a rating out of 5 stars before exiting this session. We look forward to receiving your feedback. The Tech Innovation 2021 virtual portal will be open until next Friday, the 8th of October, 2021. This means you can still access on-demand recordings of the live conferences and technology showcases under the Agenda section. You can also request for a callback with exhibitors and IPI tech experts. As your meeting requests may not be attended to in real time, be sure to check back on the virtual portal daily for their responses. Alternatively, you can send your queries to admin@techinnovation.com.sg. Thank you once again for participating in the virtual Tech Innovation 2021. And personally, I would like to congratulate IPI Singapore for organizing 10 years of tech innovation. Congratulations. And we certainly look forward to welcome all of you back again next year. In the meantime, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.